Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the music education case study. Just wanted to start by saying that my study is completely fictional and most likely a best case scenario, but it definitely has some realistic ideas embedded into it. To start off, there's a background. So Grayson is a third grader with autism in a fully inclusive classroom at Wilson Heights Elementary School. A teacher's aide accompanies him during the core classes, which would be math, earth science, history, and English, but he acts independently in the elective courses, which would be art and music, meaning that the aide isn't accompanying him. Grayson is nonverbal, but he effectively communicates with a text-to-speech device. He tends to get upset during music class and display a behavior of kicking back and forth multiple times in the chair to the point where he falls onto the ground and cries. So when teachers, parents, or peers ask what happened or why he's crying, he usually presses the sad button on his text-to-speech device, which is denoted by a picture of a boy crying. So he doesn't actually explain why he's upset, he just describes that he is upset. The teacher, Miss Danny, thinks that this behavior is occurring because the aide isn't with him in this elective class, or that maybe this change in his routine is triggering the behavior. His parents, however, feel as if the antecedent would be the loud sounds that a music classroom would include. Miss Danny reports that the behavior occurs before music class even begins. So it's important to address this behavior to ensure that Grayson is able to stay in this inclusive classroom for a music setting and that his peers' learning is not also being affected. So the first step would be setting up a functional behavior assessment. So there's 6 main steps to that. The first one is establishing a team, which would include Grayson, Grayson's parents, Miss Danny, which is his teacher, the teacher's aide, and also the school occupational therapist. The second step would be identifying and defining the behavior problem. So as previously stated, Grayson's problem behavior is crying and kicking back and forth in his seat until he falls out. And the third step is to collect baseline data. So this is easily obtained by using ABC assessments, which are antecedent behavior consequence assessments, which determine what happens before a person reacts in a certain way and then what happens after a person reacts that way. The fourth step is to create a hypothesis. So we talked about those earlier, about what Miss Danny thinks and also what Grayson's parents think. The fifth step is to plan intervention. So we'll talk about that in a second. And the sixth step is one of the most important. It is to continuously evaluate the effectiveness of the plan that you've implemented. So after 2 weeks of taking data, repeating the results from the ABC assessment, the team met to talk about possible causes and solutions, and it was determined that the antecedent or the trigger for Grayson's crying and kicking behaviors in the music classroom specifically was the anticipation of hearing the loud sounds. So there are various adaptations, accommodations, and modifications that you can make in the classroom in order to accommodate for these. Obviously, it's pretty hard to get rid of loud sounds from the music classroom because music is a part of the curriculum. So instead of changing the entire classroom to not be loud, there can be a certain calm down area where students can go to decompress. So this wouldn't just be used for Grayson, it could also be used for everybody else. It could have things such as stress balls of different textures just in case there's a sensory issue. It could have books so that people could just read for a few minutes and calm down. There can be pillows or posters, and the posters shouldn't be too overwhelming. People should still be able to focus, but one poster specifically that might be helpful would be one that has breathing techniques, so maybe something that prompts students to count from 1 to 10, inhaling and exhaling as they go along. Before implementing this specific calm down area, it'd be helpful to explain this idea to the classroom as a self-regulation tool. So it makes it seem interesting to the students so that they'll want to utilize the area and so that it's widely accepted, so everybody will want to go over there, or there won't be judgment from other peers if some do decide to use the area. So there are a couple helpful accommodations that could be made in this situation. The most important would probably be wearing earplugs when Grayson knows that things are going to be loud. These would not be in place when the teacher is just lecturing, because if somebody wears earplugs for an extended period of time, all the time, then it's likely that when they're not wearing the earplugs, they'll become a lot more sensitive to sound, making it more unbearable than it was in the first place. Another helpful accommodation would be warning Grayson before loud music is going to be played, so this way he knows when he should put his headphones in or when he might be disturbed some. So specifically for going into the classroom, if there's going to be entrance music to act as transitioning, it would be helpful for him to know this ahead of time so that he can put his earplugs in before he walks into the classroom. And for modifications, which are changing the course curriculum to easily fit the student, would be to, rather than listening to music to determine which note it is, if this is something that the students are being tested on, then Grayson will start with differentiating between low pitch and high pitch sounds. And later he would be worked up to build his tolerance to listen to different levels of high pitch sounds so that he could determine which notes those are in, if that makes sense. So far, these changes have been going well. On average, Grayson has only had the specified behavior of crying and kicking in his chair once a week rather than multiple times a day each day. He's learned to take himself to the calm down area without Miss Danny asking him if he needs to go. And so far, the only adaptation to these ideas have been that there's an in-class pair of earplugs that he leaves at school every day and his own pair of personal earplugs. So just in case he forgets his personal earplugs, there's ones in class that he can still utilize. He has also started to wear earplugs when people start to pack their bags or pull things out of their bags between changing of subjects. So if someone's changing from math to English, when people are taking out their English books, he puts in his headphones. So this way the sounds aren't too distracting or too unsettling. Like I said before, the most important step is to continue to make sure that these things are working and adapt them if they're not, or if anyone else comes up with a better idea to try out. And that's all. Thank you.